Although Galen's power of darkness was strong, it wasn't enough to blot out the sky. In the end, it failed to cover the whole blood slaughter domain due to the suppression of light. Light and darkness cancelled each other out, but the darkness was still slightly stronger. Thus, the light spells from Freygar's group failed to reach Galen. Nevertheless, with Galen's power of darkness reduced to half its effect, his big hiding ground was also reduced to half. Although the others still didn't know where he hid, they knew he was somewhere in the other half of the domain, which was still covered in darkness. Your Majesty, should we also make our move? Commander Joru inquired. However, Emperor Vaan shook his head, saying, no, we will only get in the way. This is a battle of magic. Forcefully joining this sort of high-level battle will only result in unnecessary casualties. We will focus on the De La Rosas. Apprehend those who surrender and kill those who resist, then have the regular soldiers bring them out of this killing field. We will also retreat once that is done. As it stands, we will become that old demon's blood supply if we stay, Emperor Vaan stated. You're absolutely right, Your Majesty. Commander Joru furiously nodded, adding, while we might still be able to help, the rest of our men won't be. Not only will they not contribute, but they will even help the old demon. I will mobilize the troops right now. Commander Joru shortly followed up on Emperor Varan's instructions. Meanwhile, Kovat took the chance given to him by his fellow peers to absorb the divine rank stalactite milk given to him by the supreme leader. Kovat, heed my words, a true dragon's physique is far different from a human's physique, it is physically superior and much larger. However, this is both a blessing and a curse. While you enjoy superior talents, the resources you require to advance your physique are also 30-fold that of a human's. What I will give you now is enough to advance your physique to the next level. However, it is of a different element to your nature of fire. I must also add that this divine rank stalactite milk is extremely precious in terms of quality and quantity. You can easily trade it for any type and quality of precious resource you desire. However, I must also remind you that this type of resource is also one of its kind. Whether you choose to take it or not is completely up to you. Kovat recalled the supreme leader's words as the divine rank stalactite milk fell from a spatial portal and into his possession. Whether I continue pursuing the soul path of fire or walk a different path, the choice is mine, this was the supreme leader's message for me. However, I do not need to make a choice, for destiny has already chosen for me. After Kovat decisively swallowed the divine rank stalactite milk, he experienced the potency of the miraculous water remolding his fire attribute physique, changing it into one that was also closer to the earth. The earth rapidly strengthened him as the rich energy within the divine rank stalactite milk erupted, coursing through every part of Kavat's body. The earthly energy of the divine rank stalactite milk wasn't violent in nature. But given its sheer quantity, even 30 transcendent humans would have imploded from energy overload. However, Kavat's robust body was able to withstand it, not a bit more and not a bit less, it was just the right amount required. As Kavat's physique upgraded to middle stage transcendent rank, he also acquired the dual physique of earth and fire. Right now, I am the foremost talent in my generation. Kavat's eyes glowed with endless confidence due to his advancement. Unable to contain his excitement and joy, he immediately let out a mighty dragon roar. Roar! Thank you for protecting me, everyone. I have succeeded. Leave the rest to me. Kavat announced as his draconic aura erupted with grandeur. At the same time, Galen glanced in his direction with shock and disbelief. He knew the dragons were up to something, but he didn't expect one of them to achieve such a startling transformation in such a short time. After all, unless one relied on special means, such as accepting the divine powers of the great devils, it was extremely difficult for transcendence to advance with each step. And yet, one of the dragons actually possessed something that's special. What the hell did you just take? How did you raise your power so much in such a short time? Galen barked with unease. He felt like he no longer had everything under control after Kavat's power grew to a level that could rival his. Are you nervous, old demon? Kavat grinned before boasting, hee, this is the gift granted to me by our god. Our god. Galen noted with great emphasis. Only divine beings were worthy of being called gods. The great devils were such beings, but most people wouldn't call them gods, especially not the dragons. The Red Dragon clan only had one god. The dragon god? How is that old thing not dead yet? Galen panicked with alarm before abruptly smiling with frightening calmness and cruelty, spitting, is that what you think I would say? Even if your god intervenes now, it's already too late. My master's plans have been set in motion for 200 years. A small setback will not change the final result. Pangea has been far too quiet. You all have grown complacent with the peace you enjoyed and forgot the terror of 300 years ago. Fret not. We will bring back the terror of those days. Darkness will descend on these lands, and the world will know fear once more. Let us welcome his greatness and his people together. Kavat and the others suddenly paled as they heard Galen's declaration. Galen could be a mad demon, but they couldn't simply pass his words off as the nonsensical ravings of a lunatic. You! Old demon, what the hell are you trying to do? Emperor Vaan roared at the top of his lungs before quickly urging, no, we must kill him right away. Ha ha ha. It's too late, you fools. I was only serving as the distraction. Galen laughed with insanity. He valued his life so much. So, why in the hell would he bother risking his life by expending all his efforts in a battle with unclear results? Kill him. Kill him now. Don't give this old demon a chance to retaliate. If there's even an ounce of truth in his words, we must never let it come to fruition. Emperor Vaan roared with madness. Emperor Vaan immediately lunged at Galen, sword aimed straight for his heart after a barrage of light-piercing dragon spells exposed Galen's darkness-shrouded body. The aura-enhanced sword pierced straight through Galen's heart region, but no physical contact was felt as Galen's body dispersed into darkness. Emperor Varen's expression fell, but he immediately slashed at the rest of Galen's darkness-dispersing body in rapid succession. Boom! 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 Ballistic dragon spells immediately bombarded the location a split second after Emperor Vaan leaped. Are you alright, Your Majesty? I'm fine. Commander Joru quickly checked on Emperor Vaan and felt relieved after confirming his condition. Meanwhile, fire and smoke rose from the pits under the heavy magic barrage, mixing with the black clouds of darkness. Galen's figure was repeatedly deformed and blown apart, but it didn't wipe away his cold, ridiculing smile. Only his shadowy clone was struck. As for his real body, it was hidden elsewhere in the darkness. You fools. I've already told you that I am just a distraction. Do you think we will believe you just because you said so? At the same time, Kavat quickly summoned a pseudo-black hole with a powerful devouring force and fired it into Galen's region of darkness. In a short instance, the pseudo-black hole swallowed up everything in the area regardless of whether they were dust, debris, light, or darkness. In the blink of an eye, a dumbfounded Galen was stripped out of his hiding spot as he tried to resist getting pulled into the pseudo-black hole. I'm willing to bet that you are just trying to lure us away so you can buy some time to signal the next step of your master's grand scheme. Emperor Vaan and the dragons immediately locked onto Galen's figure and assaulted him from every angle. There didn't seem to be the slightest opening for Galen to exploit. Yet, he somehow managed to slip through their concentrated attack by burrowing himself into his own shadow and re-emerging from someone else's shadow. In that brief instant of relocation, Galen's entire physical body seemed to have been converted into a spiritual state. Sigh. This is why being too smart is not good for you, foolish lizard. Galen indirectly admitted his intention as he punctured a hole through the Imperial soldier whom he appeared behind and drained all of his blood. Why must you force my hand? I was going to let you all live to witness the grand arrival of my master and his people. But now, you can all die and become his offerings. Not good. Everyone, get away from there. Emperor Vaan quickly warned. However, his warning came far too late. If a peak transcendent wanted the Imperial soldiers to die, their lives were as good as gone without third-party intervention. Galen's flesh rapidly inflated with spiky surfaces before countless blood needles burst out of his body, shooting in every direction. Kavat and his peers hurriedly used their barrier magic to save as many lives as possible. However, thousands of Imperial soldiers and several dozen Imperial guards still lost there. Even a couple hundred Delarosan members got killed by the blood needle volley. No! Emperor Vaan cried, instantly filled with regret. The killing power of Galen's blood needles was just too fearsome. They were just too crowded within the Delarosa household. He should have ordered everyone below transcendent rank to evacuate the premises at the earliest chance they were given. Alas, his desire to capture the Delarosans and extract their knowledge cost him dearly. Nevertheless, Galen was not content as he prepared another killing spree after getting locked down by the dragons. Galen ended up smashing his head into the shadowy ground. The shadows in the area seemed to have been sealed. Do you think you can use the same move twice after I've seen it once, devils? In a short instant, Galen was reduced to a bloody, wretched state. He had suffered grievous injuries from the concentrated attack, and even his powerful regeneration failed to restore him quickly due to blood coagulation. Galen coughed up chunks of coagulated blood. He glared at Kavat venomously while his body was pinned to the ground with persisting poison arrow. Kakik, I must admit I have greatly underestimated your kind. While it was still shorter than I had hoped, I should have bought sufficient time for the grand array to gather its energy. Galen suddenly drilled into his own stomach with his barely recovered left hand and activated the hidden totem inside with a crushing motion. Rumble. The entire surface of the Delarosa household suddenly lit up with intensifying blood crimson light. At the same time, all the spilled blood on the ground instantly vanished into the light before a powerful pillar of blood crimson light soared into the high heavens from Galen's location, or, more specifically, his stomach, where he hid his totem beacon. Previous chapter. After the powerful, heaven-reaching pillar, Galen's blood slaughter domain dispersed like the strong light had pierced through it, allowing the people outside to see the situation inside. What happened? What is going on with that red light? Why does it give me such a terrible premonition? Countless high-ranking warriors interrogated the fleeing soldiers and surrendered Delarosan members for answers. Please take me away from me, Lord. I'll do anything you want and answer anything you ask. Just take me anyway from this place, please, a terrified Delarosan member pleaded. Oh. Duke Gamliel glanced at the Delarosan member with interest and disdain. Aren't you from the Delarosa household? You're a little too quick to flee your master, aren't you? Where is your loyalty? Loyalty? My loyalty lies with the Holy Mother, the giver of life and knowledge. What else am I supposed except flee if the Holy Son, the Holy Mother's chosen one, had turned his back on her and served another great devil? The Delarosan member replied with horror. The Holy Mother? Duke Gamliel raised an eyebrow before demanding an answer. And who is this Holy Mother you speak of? The Holy Mother is the giver of life and knowledge, the mother of all witches and witchcraft. Her divinity is what the world knows as the great devil Hecate. However, her divinity is a good devil who looks after humans and views them like her children, the Delarosan member explained with blind faith. A good devil? The only good devil is a dead one. Duke Gamliel snickered with contempt before barking dismissively, Men, take this boy away for further questioning later. He looks like he will provide some useful information. Yes, my lord, several men answered. At the same time, similar situations occurred throughout the vicinity of the Delarosa household as people fled the territory. Meanwhile, Kavat's group and Emperor Varen's close retainers remained within the Delarosan household. They did everything they could to destroy the source of soaring red light. However, no matter what attack or spell they used, they couldn't get close to the totem beacon embedded within Galen's stomach. Damn it. How could this light barrier be so damn powerful? It used the blood offering of several thousand lives as the fuel. Kavat chuckled bitterly, shaking his head. How can it not be powerful? The red light's main function wasn't meant to act as a barrier. However, it was more powerful than any barrier-type totem the De La Rosa household had revealed. This was because of the quantity and quality of the blood sacrifice used to activate. Blood sacrifices could grant power beyond one's imagination, depending on the quantity and quality of it. That was also why it was usually considered taboo. We have failed the supreme leader, Freygar sighed with regret and disappointment. However, her regret and disappointment didn't come from her inability to stop Galen from activating the totem beacon, it was from failing to live up to the supreme leader's expectations. Nevertheless, this wasn't something that could be blamed on their group. The truth was that even if the old demon hadn't used the blood of thousands of lives as the offering, the old demon would have still been able to activate the totem beacon upon his death. The blood potency of a peak transcendent would have achieved the same result, albeit a little weaker. As such, no matter what they did, they were doomed to fail. The enemy had been scheming for a very long time and wouldn't leave any room for error, they were too meticulous. As the pillar of blood crimson light soared into the heavens, it was easily seen throughout the great Rathalos Empire, let alone the imperial capital, the heart of its source. As such, the sacred Tirtha was definitely not an exception, given its relatively close distance. The first beacon has been lit. The Holy Sun has sent his signal. Activate our second beacon at once. The ceremony of great cleansing shall commence henceforth, the great shaman Limana quickly instructed. Following her command, hundreds of sacred Tirtha members immediately activated their fire-type totem powers on an enormous pit-like furnace located underground. A shocking wealth of several million mana stones were quickly burned within the pit-like furnace, melting into liquid form. The liquid-state mana soon traveled into designated pipelines, spreading throughout the sacred Tirtha's sacred ground, connected rivers, and even the imperial capital's sewage system. As the entire sacred Tirtha lit up with an eerie red light, Great Shaman Limana, ex-Great Shaman Laetitia, and everyone else within sacred Tirtha suddenly felt weak and lethargic. They immediately realized something was wrong. Something's not right. The ceremony of great cleansing. Great cleansing. Ha ha ha, so that's how it is. Even we are not excluded from the great cleansing. You are too cruel, father. Laetitia felt bitter as she was enlightened at the moment of her death. Shortly after, she was turned into withered skin and bones, completely void of blood, along with Great Shaman Limana and 100,000 other members within the sacred Tirtha. After the underground array received their blood offering, a heaven-reaching pillar of blood crimson light also soared into the skies from the heart of the sacred Tirtha. However, that wasn't the end of it. After the two pillars of blood crimson light appeared, the blood crimson light started to spread to connect with each other and create an even wider pillar of blood crimson light. Every living being caught within the blood crimson light also became a blood offering to the grand array. Within a matter of minutes, countless lives perished in the red light. 10,000. 100,000. Several 100,000. A million. When the two pillars of blood crimson light connected after 15 minutes, the number of deaths reached a terrifying 2 million count. 2 million blood offerings. The generated power would be unimaginable. Fortunately, thanks to Kavat's fast thinking, he realized the danger early and withdrew from the red light with his peers. Even Emperor Vaan and most forces gathered outside the De La Rosa household managed to retreat safely. The veil of blood crimson light didn't move very fast, but it wasn't slow either, there simply wasn't enough time to notify all the citizens. As such, only the oblivious people living in the area of the blanketing blood crimson light became its victims. If the grand array hadn't been sabotaged to a great extent, such a horrifying light would have covered the entire capital city. In that event, the death toll wouldn't have been as simple as a mere 2 million. After all, the grand evaluation event was just around the corner. Thus, the imperial capital was in its most bustling period. The population during such a period definitely exceeded 50 million. But even though the worst situation had been avoided, a death toll of 2 million was a disastrous loss in the history of humankind, let alone the great Rathalos Empire. On a hill outside the blood crimson light-covered region, Emperor Vaan knelt on the ground with a pale look, feeling a sense of inexplicable loss and defeat. This is the worst day in human history since the period of the Holy War. While Emperor Vaan felt saddened by the unprecedented death toll, he also felt a little fortunate. Perhaps due to the Armstrong family's great destiny, the imperial palace did not get caught in the blood sacrificial zone. That said, only his empress wife stayed in the imperial palace. His daughters spent all their time at the Martial Hall, and the Armstrong family's branch members all moved to a place called Dragon Palace. On the other hand, Bela Ravisk of Duke Gamliel's faction and Lord Nevemza of Duke Zohar's faction were not so fortunate. Their territories were all located in the blood sacrificial zone. In other words, their entire families were wiped out, reduced to withered skins and bones. Arg! Why did something like this happen? Why? Lord Nevemza roared in anguish and sorrow as he lost everything. What kind of heartless fiend would sacrifice so many lives? Cease your tears, Lord Nevemza. You can grieve after you avenge your loss. This is the clear work of a devil. No human would do this. Duke Zohar consoled with a pale look, feeling his scalps tingle with cold shivers. In mere minutes, such a large piece of the imperial capital was reduced to a land of death. Nevertheless, they have a bigger problem now. Imperial capital, Black Mountain. The enormous blood crimson light zone had long attracted everyone's attention with its first appearance. The martial warriors gathered around the Black Mountain were no exception. Crack. Vaan's body moved slightly, and the shell of dry blood crumbled apart like fragile rocks, exposing his true figure underneath without any disguise. However, no one noticed him, nor did he pay them any attention. They were all looking toward the blood-crimson sky. Ba-dump. Ba-dump. Many warriors felt their hearts beating loud and erratically as they sensed unfathomable darkness and evil hidden within the blood-crimson sky. Meanwhile, as blood energy continued to channel into the sky through the pillars of blood-crimson light, tremendous changes began to take place in the affected region. The sun waned, the sky darkened, the white clouds spread, and the black clouds emerged from within, replacing the original white clouds. On a sunny day, a fraction of the imperial capital was shrouded in the darkness of the night within mere moments. And from within that darkness, unbelievable sightings could be discovered. The entire veil of blood-crimson light trembled, and a red moon appeared, illuminating the dark sky with its cascading, gloomy, crimson moonlight. Soon, an ancient floating castle shrouded in clouds of black bats reflected on the other side of the crimson moonlight. It looked like a mere illusion, a trick on the eye. However, this mere illusion was only as thin as the veil of crimson moonlight existing between it and the rest of the world. On the surface, cold winds blew, distorting space as sophisticated Gothic-style homes briefly replaced the existing stone buildings in the imperial capital. Intermittent changes to the scenery continued like a flickering candlelight in the night, ghostly quiet, weak, and yet, people couldn't take their eyes off it. At the same time, within this blood-sacrificial zone, the original thin traces of mana suddenly became aplenty and boundless like Gehenna itself. No, the boundless mana actually came from Gehenna. Furthermore, the affected region became dominant with the Gehenna laws. Just when everyone thought and believed the intermittent changes of sceneries within the blood-sacrificial zone were fake, clouds of black bats suddenly flew out of the crimson veil. Chaos quickly descended on the imperial capital as the black bats preyed on the helpless commoners. Terrified screams resounded wherever the clouds of black bats went, followed by trails of drained corpses in their wake. Vampiric demon bats. And there's so many of them, a terrified man exclaimed as he fled in horror. However, the terrified man didn't make it very far before a group of vampiric demon bats reached him, only leaving after they turned him into a bloodless corpse. Draw your swords and steel your hearts, proud warriors of the great Rathalos Empire. The darkest days of our nation have descended upon us. However, we will neither run nor go down without a fight. Emperor Vaan roared with his treasured sword raised. Don't let fear dull your blades and cloud your minds. Before you stand the greatest challenges in your lives. Can you hear it? The screams of our people? Now is the time when they need you most. If you don't have the courage, then find it. Prove to me that you are truly proud warriors of this land. We will eradicate these blood-sucking fiends and save our people. Following Emperor Varan's war cry, the warriors behind him roared at the top of their lungs and beat their chests in unison, letting their blood boil and numb their fears. Swoosh. Suddenly, Duke Zohar charged ahead of everyone else before turning his head back in laughter. Ha ha ha. Brothers, I'll be going first. The glory of first kill will be mine. Ha ha ha, do you think I will just let you outperform me, brother Zohar? I don't give a damn about your glory of first kill. The glory of most kills will be mine. Duke Gamliel followed without hesitation. Seeing the two dukes charged ahead fearlessly, the rest of their factions also charged after them. Just half a day ago, they were still at odds with each other. But when duty called, they didn't hesitate to work together to overcome the greater threat. Death to the demons, the incited warrior started roaring. Meanwhile, Emperor Vaan shook his head with a slight smile, feeling proud to be the emperor of such fearless warriors. Shortly after, Emperor Vaan turned to Kvat's group. Venerable dragons, that old villain still lives, and there is nothing I want to do more than to tear him apart. However, the city needs me. May I entrust the task of finishing him off to your group? Naturally, Kvat answered without hesitation, adding, our god tasked us to assist your empire in eliminating the De La Rosa household. How can we leave before we see its completion? Thank you. If we live through this, I'll be sure to show you and your god my highest regard and gratitude. Emperor Vaan solemnly promised before departing with the rest of his men. After Emperor Vaan departed for battle, Kvat also turned to Sapphira and the rest of the dragon reinforcements that came, albeit a bit late. I thank you all for coming to help. However, it would be best if you all assist the humans. The humans cannot help themselves. If we don't help them, their losses will be even greater, Kvat mentioned before he stated resolutely, I will deal with the old villain from the De La Rosa household. Will you be fine on your own, Kvat? We had enough trouble dealing with him as a group. Freygar said with surprise. I will be fine, Freygar. Thank you for your concern. The last round of attacks had dealt the old villain a serious blow. Even if he heals, his energy would be greatly consumed. Furthermore, I am slightly stronger after I advanced, Kvat assured. Freygar, Sapphira, and the other dragons gave Kvat a hard stare before they quietly acquiesced to his request. Then, they took their leave one by one. Nevertheless, Sapphira briefly glanced back and left behind some words, I don't care what happened between you and the De La Rosa household and your feelings about it, Kvat. However, the supreme leader's will is absolute. If you fail again, I will be the first to condemn you. Keep that in mind, Sapphira warned before catching up with the rest. Kvat lightly smiled, but he became even more determined to succeed. The double contractor and I are virtually equal in power. If I cannot overcome him, how can I hope to remain a proud dragon and stand tall in this world? If I fail here, I won't have the right to keep following the supreme leader. This is my trial. Kvat thought. Old villain, wait for me. Your head is mine. The appearance of the enormous blood-crimson zone alarmed the entire Great Rathalos Empire, and the Red Wyvern clan was no exception. However, by the time the Wyvern ancestor emerged from Red Wyvern Ridge with his clan members, the vampiric demon bats of Gehenna were already preying on human lives. Roar! Looking at the tragic scene within the imperial capital, the Wyvern ancestor immediately let out a furious, earth-shaking roar, powerful enough to paralyze the nearby clouds of vampiric demon bats for a brief moment. The Wyvern ancestor was the guardian beast of the Great Rathalos Empire, duty-bound to protect its people and stability as per its agreement with an ancestor of the Armstrong family. However, after it emerged from its seclusion, all the Wyvern ancestor saw was death everywhere. How could it not be angry? That roar. It's the Wyvern ancestor. The Wyvern ancestor has come to save us. Praise the Wyvern ancestor, Arg, and no. Stop. Don't eat me, ah. Before a young warrior could finish celebrating the Wyvern ancestor's arrival, he was quickly drowned in a sea of bloodthirsty vampiric demon bats. His death was more tragic than most. Other corpses were at least left with their skewered layers of flesh, but only bones remained of him. In this city, swarming with blood-sucking demons, the loudest ones were the easiest targets to track and prey upon. Go! Rip all these blood-craved fiends to pieces for me, the Wyvern ancestor roared in its natural language, as the Wyverns did not understand human speech as well as it did. After all, they had yet to live as long as the Wyvern ancestor, who had lived for more than 1,000 years and was easily the most ancient living beast on the lands of Pangaea. Nevertheless, after receiving the Wyvern ancestor's command, the flock of red wyverns plunged into the clouds of vampiric demon bats with full savagery. The red wyverns did not use any special attack, they simply relied on their robust bodies to pulverize the fragile vampiric demon bats with their heavy collisions, then used their sharp teeth and claws to tear apart the fleeing survivors. Puff! 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 Bodies smashed, wings torn, and blood spewed. The clouds of vampiric demon bats terrorizing the skies of the imperial capital were slaughtered in large numbers and turned into rains of blood and chunks of flesh. Shortly after decimating the largest groups of vampiric demon bats in the sky, the red wyverns split off to look for their companion riders after hearing their summoning whistles. Wyvern ancestor, congratulations on your breakthrough. Suddenly, Emperor Vaan's surprised voice trickled over to the Wyvern ancestor's ears, causing it to steer its head in his direction. Vaan lad. What the hell happened here? How did you let the situation become this severe? The Wyvern ancestor reprimanded. Emperor Vaan smiled bitterly before recounting the events to the Wyvern ancestor in detail. The scheme of the devils had been brewing in the Great Rathalos Empire for far too long that it couldn't be stopped. It was already a ticking time bomb waiting to erupt. All they did was make it erupt earlier than planned in hopes of weakening it. To think such a thing happened. The Wyvern ancestor was deeply shocked to learn of Galen's plan to summon the vampire ancestor and kin. Right, Wyvern ancestor, you have superior observation and aerial advantage. What's the situation at the sacred Tirtha? Emperor Vaan quickly inquired. The Wyvern ancestor briefly observed the sacred Tirtha's location before snorting. What kind of situation could there be at sacred Tirtha? Everyone inside the red light region is dead. It's a completely dead zone. They're all dead? Emperor Varan's eyes widened in shock, right? After listening to your report, even this ancient one was surprised to learn that so many foolish humans willingly sacrificed their lives for the demons, the Wyvern ancestor mentioned with doubt and contempt, thinking humans were truly stupid. However, Emperor Vaan quickly frowned in thought. At the same time, he warded off the incoming vampiric demon bats with his sword. That's not right. There were numerous signs suggesting the sacred Tirtha worshipped the great devil Hecate. So why would they sacrifice themselves for the great devil Abaddon? Even the Delarosas were shocked by Galen's reveal. Emperor Vaan contemplated for a moment before his eyes suddenly flashed with insight. That old demon Galen was far more heartless than I thought. He actually tricked everyone at the sacred Tirtha into sacrificing themselves to the great devil Abaddon. Even his own family wasn't spared. Clap, clap, clap. A round of applause suddenly alarmed Emperor Vaan, causing him to turn around and locate the source. Who? Emperor Vaan barked. Emperor Vaan fixed his gaze on a dark corner filled with dozens of blood-red eyes staring back at him. They belonged to a group of vampiric demon bats. However, this group did not blindly attack him like the rest of their kind. For a moment, Emperor Vaan thought he had seen wrong as the dozens of eyes merged into a single pair of blood-red eyes. A few moments later, a humanoid male emerged from the dark corner, revealing his defining black hair, blood-red eyes, and pale skin. He was also dressed in a high-quality, silky black suit. These were the clear traits of a vampire. Furthermore, based on his aura and attire, the humanoid male appeared to be a notably high-ranking vampire. The vampire displayed a seemingly harmless smile, but the battle-spirited pair of red eyes betrayed his intentions for a peaceful engagement. It seems I have finally caught your attention, the high-ranking vampire smiled as he spoke. I wasn't sure how much longer I would have to wait before you notice my presence. I am someone who has always been interested in fighting strong people, and you look like the strongest person in this area. What do you think? Will you be my opponent? The high-ranking vampire suggested with refined mannerisms. The high-ranking vampire patiently waited for Emperor Varan's response when a rank 4 body refiner suddenly launched a sneak attack from the side. I will be your opponent. Poof. The rank 4 body refiner's roar abruptly ended after his head miraculously fell into the high-ranking vampire's grasp and popped with a slight squeeze. The high-ranking vampire did not even do so much as spare the rank 4 body refiner a glance. He simply raised his hand, and the rank 4 body refiner lost control of his movements, falling right into his grasp before dying. Emperor Vaan took a deep breath before re-evaluating the high-ranking vampire's strength. Before that, I want to know who you are. Are you the great devil Abaddon? Emperor Vaan asked. However, his question immediately threw the high-ranking vampire into a fit of laughter. Am I the great devil Abaddon, you ask? The high-ranking vampire shook as he glanced at Emperor Vaan with scorn. You think too highly of yourself, human. Do you think you are worthy of challenging my master? I am far beneath my master's strength, but being permitted to challenge me is already your greatest honor, you ignorant buffoon. Alas, the fault lies with me for forgetting to introduce myself. Forgive my unsightly conduct. I shouldn't have insulted you and blamed your ignorance. Let us start over, shall we? The high-ranking vampire quickly calmed down before properly introducing himself. This noble one is the noble vampire known as Casimir, the 99th demon in my master's, the Blood Ancestors Night Parade. 99th demon. Emperor Vaan felt heavy-hearted, knowing there were at least 98 other vampires as powerful or even stronger than Casimir. Meanwhile, other members of the Blood Ancestors Night Parade also made their trips around the imperial capital. The Wyvern Ancestor and the Dragon Elites were no exceptions, as they found themselves before refined-looking vampires of unknown strengths. None of these demons of the Night Parade seemed interested in feasting on blood as they had no such urges. Good day to you, venerable dragon. I am the 73rd seated demon in the Blood Ancestors Night Parade, the noble vampire Velarina. You are the most beautiful dragon I have ever laid eyes upon. Do you think your pretty scales will make good garments for me? I feel like a dragon scale battle dress would look very dazzling on me. Frhagar immediately frowned before cussing, bitch. While 1/3 of the Night Parade descended upon the imperial capital, the remaining 2/3 visited the Black Mountain alone. Moreover, it was the strongest 2/3 of the Night Parade. It seemed the Black Mountain possessed something rather special or enticing that attracted most of the Night Parade to it. However, the 66 members of the Night Parade weren't the first to be drawn to the Black Mountain. Several 100,000 vampiric demon bats flocked to the Black Mountain before them. It was only after noticing the odd behaviors of the vampiric demon bats that the 66 members of the Night Parade paid attention to the Black Mountain and visited it. Of course, Vaan knew exactly what attracted all of them, his unique aura. The martial warriors at the foot of the Black Mountain were shocked when 66 high-ranking vampires showed up next to them, each with a level of strength most likely beyond the transcendent rank, according to their unstable auras. Demigod rank demons. A senior martial warrior was horrified after identifying the semi-divine auras found within each of the high-ranking vampires. Although he couldn't be completely certain as he had never encountered demigods before, he was confident that their auras surpassed most transcendents. The crowd of martial warriors at the foot of the Black Mountain quickly panicked with alarm when the powerful vampires appeared. But after some time, astonishment replaced their fears. None of the demigod rank vampires attacked them as if they hadn't noticed them, no, they simply viewed them as nonentities. Ah! Everyone, look! Vanderlyn Pendragon is live. Ha ha ha, I knew he was alive. Ha! Wait a minute. Baruch's joyful voice resounded at the foot of the mountain before it was mixed with confusion and doubt. At the same time, many more martial warriors finally noticed Vaan and got caught off guard by his appearance. Only one person had ever reached the top of the Black Mountain, Vanderlyn Pendragon. Everyone already knew about his appearance. As such, they were astonished to find an unfamiliar face up there. Furthermore, the unfamiliar face wore the most magnificent attire he had ever seen. It seemed to exude the aura of true dragons. That's Vanderlyn Pendragon? That's not how he looks like. A junior martial warrior mentioned with doubt before softly muttering, but why do I feel like this kind of face and aura perfectly matches his name? Perhaps this is Sir Pendragon's true appearance. A senior martial warrior's eyes lit up before he loudly exclaimed, yes, that must be it. This is how Sir Pendragon should look. Truly a dragon among men. In these precarious, dark times, everyone's hearts were suddenly ignited with hope and anticipation. Their living legend versus the demigod rank vampires, who would win? The bats squealed, and the people screamed. Amidst a land of death and slaughter, Vaan glanced at his visitors with an air of indifference. After absorbing the second soul fragment, a part of him seemed to have changed besides his newfound abilities and power elevation. The trivial lives of unrelated humans felt even more insignificant to him. Although Vaan was never someone with a heroic complex, believing he should go out of his way to save people in need, he would at least do it as long as it served a favorable purpose or if the gains outweighed the losses. However, now, he didn't feel anything despite the countless screams of terror, grief, and despair. I've changed. Is this the side effect of absorbing the second memory? Vaan mused. Indeed, he had experienced and seen far too much in the memories of his past lives. Even if he hadn't seen the full life of each reincarnation, he had at least experienced their birth and death. What they had felt and thought in those moments, he had also experienced the exact same feelings and thoughts. As such, it wasn't as simple as just seeing flashbacks of his million reincarnations. Rather, it was more accurate to say he had truly experienced death and rebirth a million times in that instance. This kind of enormous information dump was no different from the highest level of torture one could experience. Any normal person would have their mentality and thoughts completely twisted, turning them insane. However, Vaan only felt numbness and indifference. This was most likely the effect of experiencing Varana's 3 chaos cycles of lonesome travel first. Being alone for such an unimaginable long span of time was able to numb all feelings. That said, this could also be the mentality of one who had stood above the heavens. After experiencing the lowest and highest points in Varana's life, death didn't seem as terrible. Life and death were just part of a cycle, death was not the absolute end, and life was just a test. If one failed, another chance to restart would be given. Thus, while millions of lives were cruelly and mercilessly taken, Vaan wasn't affected by the losses. He did not grieve nor sympathize with them. Unfortunate as it wasn't something he could change. And since it was something he couldn't change, why bother fretting over it? This world had never been kind to life, and living in it was to suffer. In this kind of world, death may not have been a tragedy but a blessing in disguise. Even though many people were dying or have died, they would still be given another chance at life. Perhaps the new world would be kinder to them in their next life, and they would not have to suffer as much. Fate had different plans for everyone, and Vaan had his own role to play. Supreme Leader, there are 66 demigod-level beings surrounding you. Should I call the others over to help? Keezy inquired, feeling anxious about the current situation. Although Vaan seemed calm, his mind was constantly spinning for solutions to the current disaster. He didn't have the luxury or spare energy to be weighed down by human emotions. No need. They have their own battles to fight. Vaan calmly dismissed the idea before saying, I have a different task for you, Keezy. Go back and find Astoria and Henrietta. Report the situation to them and tell them to prepare troops for long-distance spatial deployment. It's uncertain how many more demons will continue spawning from Gehenna, but we must contain the demons in this city to prevent the problem from spreading. There will be countless problems in the future if we give them a chance to establish footholds in this world. Pay the clan a visit when you are done. We will also deploy some clan members since we lack numbers here. Dragon Lord Astaroth will be in charge of the spatial deployment, Vaan added. Understood, Supreme Leader. Keezy obediently complied despite her own desire to stay and fight. While Vaan was instructing Keezy, the 66 members of Great Devil Abaddon's night parade were studying the gravitational power of the Black Mountain. It only took a few tests before they deemed it to be a no-flight zone. Furthermore, they even felt threatened by the Black Mountain's gravitational pressure. As such, none of them dared to set foot on the Black Mountain. Even the vampiric demon bats only flew around the outskirts of the Black Mountain despite their desire to draw closer to Vaan. There's something strange about this Iron Mountain. Its gravitational power is ridiculously powerful. We'll be crushed before we can even reach the center, the 33rd rank noble vampire, Grimbald, alerted. TCH, the 27 rank noble vampire, Hera, clicked her tongue and said, there are quite a few tasty-looking humans on this Iron Mountain. It's a pity that we can't reach them. How can they even withstand such terrible pressure? Their body composition is different to ours, they are fully comprised of essence while we are part essence, part energy. This is why the body refiners of new Chaos Verses are said to be so fearsome and tenacious, Hera, the 13th rank royal vampire, Dimitri, calmly explained. That's rather unfortunate. The 17th rank royal vampire, Helena, licked her lips with pity before saying, I bet that human standing at the very top of the Iron Mountain tastes very delicious. The scent of his blood is certainly irresistible. Ah, what should I do? I want him. The 21st rank noble vampire, Deidre, squirmed with uncontrollable lust. Suddenly, a high-ranking vampire soared into the sky until his eye leveled with Vaan's. Human, seeing as you hide on this Iron Mountain, you must be afraid and aware of the situation. Although I wish to fight you, your blood is far too precious. Why don't you swear to become my blood slave and stay by my side? This royal one will guarantee your safety in our new blood kingdom, the high-ranking vampire promised. Vaan calmly studied the high-ranking vampire in the distance, and invisible pieces of information floating around the high-rank vampire quickly entered his mind. Ding! You have read the target's information with your fourth-dimensional sense. Your proficiency in perceiving hidden information from the void has slightly increased. The Gehenna information has been translated and compiled. Target's information. Name, Lucian Bathory. Race, vampire. Class, high royal. Age, over 9,000 Gehennan years. Position, 3rd rank in the Blood Ancestors Night Parade. Existence level, half-step divine being, suppressed to peak demigod. Abilities, blood control, shadow manipulation, regeneration, bat authority. Fourth dimensional sense. It was one of several other abilities Vaan received along with the boundless sea and sky aura after he absorbed the second soul fragment. It was his second greatest gain. But arguably, it could also be his greatest gain. The true source of his unparalleled learning and thought processing capabilities was made clear when his wisdom from the void and omni-sense merged to become the fourth dimensional sense. The doubts he had and the answers Varana sought. Everything was made clear the moment he obtained it. The outer beings that attacked Chaos and the foreign invaders that destroyed the divine realm all came from the same place. They were fourth-dimensional beings from the fourth-dimensional world, an infinitely vast world beyond one's imagination. Recalling the unimaginably large celestial who caused Varana's death in the fourth-dimensional world, it was clear that while the outer beings were extremely powerful in Chaos, the outer beings they had known so far were no different from bacteria in that place. Nevertheless, the fourth-dimensional world was far more complex than the third one. Vaan did not doubt that fourth-dimensional beings absorb information differently and far more quickly than third-dimensional beings due to the sheer amount of information needed to process. It wouldn't be surprising if fourth-dimensional beings perceive time differently from third-dimensional beings because of that. What could be unimaginably fast to third-dimensional beings would be incredibly slow to fourth-dimensional beings. Things that were too fast to be seen were virtually invisible. And if they were never seen, they were never known, that was the same as being non-existent. As such, third-dimensional beings would never understand the world the same way that fourth-dimensional beings understood it, at least, that had been the case up until now. Now, there was one capable of it, Vaan. Even if Vaan's fourth-dimensional sense wasn't on par with the perception of true fourth-dimensional beings, it was still part of the fourth-dimensional world. In a third-dimensional world, this kind of perception was unparalleled and unique. It shouldn't exist, but it did. Nevertheless, Vaan could guess why he possessed such a godly talent. It was the cumulative luck of his past lives. Varuna and Vanitas both died after stumbling into the fourth-dimensional world, and their souls, his soul was washed by the fourth-dimensional energy. That was the only reason why he could possess the fourth-dimensional sense. Of course, the millions of reincarnations must have also played a major part in helping the soul assimilate the fourth-dimensional energy to give birth to this unique talent. I know you can hear me, human. Give me your answer. My patience is limited, Lucian urged with a hint of warning. Lucian had more to say, but before he could say them, several more high-ranking vampires appeared nearby. Furthermore, they were all among the top 10 demons in the Blood Ancestors Night Parade. Lord Lucian, don't you think it was inappropriate to ask this precious human to become your blood slave before consulting us first? Do you think we will agree? The elegant second rank, Bertram, spoke with displeasure. That's right, the beautiful fifth rank, Viessa, chimed before persuading Vaan, you should become my blood slave instead, human. I will surely treat you well, much better than this big oaf, at the very least. I guarantee it. What say you? Lady Viessa, you are not being fair either. We have not decided who this human would belong to. So, it's not your turn to talk to this human, the authoritative first rank, Fergus, spoke with a stern look. Vaan glanced at the latest high-ranking vampire and read his information. Ding. You have read the target's information with your fourth-dimensional sense. Your proficiency in perceiving hidden information from the void has slightly increased. The Gehenna information has been translated and compiled. Equals target's information. Name, Fergus Albatross. Race, vampire. Class, highest royal. Age, over 15,000 Gehennan years. Position, first rank in the Blood Ancestors Night Parade. Existence level, early stage divine being, recently ascended, suppressed to half-step divine being. Abilities, blood control, shadow manipulation, coercion, mind control. After seeing Fergus's information, Vaan was surprised by the royal vampire's true strength. However, that was all. Given his current abilities, he was not afraid of an early-stage divine being, let alone one that had been suppressed to a half-step divine being due to Pangean laws. Nevertheless, it was clear that Pangea's suppression had weakened substantially due to the blood sacrificial grand array. The great Rathalos Empire's fate would not look bright if a great devil appeared. Something is not right. We've wasted so many words, but this human hasn't shown the slightest reaction. Could he be deaf and mute? Or is there an issue with this Iron Mountain that prevents him from hearing us? Viessa doubted. I can hear you all just fine, I'm just too lazy to respond. Vaan finally spoke with an air of nonchalance, adding, after all, do you talk to flies when they buzz at you? Vaan's words immediately offended the entire group of high-ranking vampires. What did you just say? Lucian growled. We gave you such a great opportunity because we think highly of you. And yet, you dare to spit on our generosity? Human, you are far too arrogant. However, with your blood quality, you have a right to be arrogant. Fergus acknowledged before his crimson eyes flashed with intensity, seemingly activating his mind control. I will give you one more chance. If you swear to become my loyal blood slave, I will forget all about your insults and won't let anyone touch a single one of your hair without my permission. Vaan softly chuckled before coolly stating, you all look down on my arrogance, but none of you seem to be aware that your own arrogance is even more ridiculous. All this harping about making me your blood slave, but none of you have the slightest clue of your own limits. You are all overestimating yourselves and greatly underestimating me. Or could it be that you all are incapable of sensing my strength? When Vaan raised this question, he had, more or less, confirmed the high-ranking vampires couldn't tell how exactly strong he was, seeing how they revealed confusion and surprise. Evidently, his boundless sea and sky aura was so dominant that the high-ranking vampires couldn't sense anything past it. They could see the mountain in front of them, but they couldn't see its peak. They only knew he was special. After witnessing Vaan's manner of speech and confidence, the leading Fergus and the rest of the high-ranking vampire group frowned at him in doubt. They re-evaluated his strength but noticed nothing besides his powerful physique and unique aura. It seems you are the one who doesn't know what you are talking about, human. This royal one admits your body is strong, and while you stay on this Iron Mountain, there's nothing we can do to you, Lucian calmly acknowledged before revealing contempt. However, once you leave the protection of this Iron Mountain, you'll quickly realize that this brute strength you are so proud of is nothing in front of our magic. This is rather disappointing. To think a body refiner this strong could be so ignorant about the power dynamics. But then again, what was I expecting from a low-life value world in the new Chaos verse? The 8th rank royal vampire, Fane, uttered disdainfully. We are wasting too much time here. We still need to complete the Blood Ancestor's task. If we don't finish subjugating this human settlement before the Blood Ancestor arrives, the Blood Ancestor will punish us, the 7th rank, Duradel, reminded. That's true, Hera nodded in agreement before mentioning, however, we can't catch this human while he is on this Iron Mountain. And if we let him be, it's uncertain what he could do. Should we try to force him out by threatening him with the lives of these other humans? However, her suggestion quickly received strong disapproval and disgust. Lady Hera, I can't believe you would utter something so distasteful, the elegant Viessa commented with discontent. That's right, agreed the refined gentlemanly Dimitri. After all, such an act shames the entirety of our royal lineage, and after Hera received such strong criticism, even she felt ashamed of her suggestion. Nevertheless, the attention was quickly shifted back to Vaan as Lucian apologized, please excuse kin. It seems she lacks education. That aside, do you dare leave the mountain to challenge us since you are so confident, human? Vaan knew he was being provoked, but he was also willing to fall for such provocation. After all, there was no better way of confirming his strength than to test it in battle. And he had to admit the members of Abaddon's night parade were just the right opponents for it. Conserving his strength for Abaddon was important, but thinning the vampire's numbers was also crucial. Why wouldn't I dare? I'm just afraid you will soon learn the word regret and flee faster than the time it takes you to ejaculate, Vaan coldly smiled. He had, more or less, retrieved information on all 66 demons of the night parade, albeit limited. He couldn't read more detailed information until he improved his fourth-dimensional sense. Meanwhile, Lucien's face completely darkened from Vaan's insult. Do not interfere. I will be this human's opponent. I must teach this arrogant human a lesson he will never forget. Lucien furiously declared. Go on then, Lucien. Let him understand the great divide between our two races, Fergus finally spoke after an extended period of silence. On the side, the second-rank royal vampire, Ozil, briefly glanced at Fergus with doubt but kept his surprise in silence. However, it wasn't just him who noticed Fergus's unnatural behavior. Several other high-ranking vampires also noticed it. But, like Ozil, they chose to watch in silence. After all, Fergus was the strongest vampire in their night parade and was the best candidate to show off the might of their race. However, surprisingly, he was not keen on fighting and actually passed the opportunity on to someone else. After seeing Fergus act like that, naturally, the rest of them were even less eager to fight until they learned more about the human. Meanwhile, Fergus was more than happy to see someone else test Vaan's power. He had grown wary after his mind control failed to produce its desired effect. Come, human. Get out of your turtle shell and fight me. I will show you the difference between us. Lucien roared with impatience. Vaan smiled indifferently and said, since you are in a hurry to die, let me send you on your way. In that instant, the vampiric demon bats seemed to have sensed Vaan's intent. They immediately flew out of the way, making a clear sky path between him and Lucien. However, Vaan didn't use it. He took a step and disappeared in the blink of an eye, vanishing right in front of the high-ranking vampire's countless gazes. Such a sight immediately startled all of them as they heightened their senses with alarm, realizing Vaan truly meant business. Let us change the battle location. It would be a pity if the plants and herbs in this region were harmed because of our battle. Vaan made a calm suggestion as he appeared behind Lucien. However, the latter wasn't even given a chance to respond or react before he was dragged into a spatial leap, disappearing from the airspace. After all, Vaan hadn't even finished speaking by that point. If Vaan had waited until he finished speaking before dragging the person away, Lucien would have long made a move against him. Where did they go? Quickly locate them. Within moments, all 66 demons of the night parade split off in every direction to look for Vaan and Lucien. However, it didn't take long before they tracked his unique scent and headed in the same direction. Meanwhile, the suffocating pressure of the vampires was lifted from the territory of the Black Mountain, allowing every martial warrior to sigh with relief. The high-ranking vampire's intimidation was so great that many martial warriors didn't dare to let out a single squeak during their presence. Did everyone see that? Sir Pendragon moved so fast that my eyes couldn't even keep up with his movements. I didn't even see his shadows. That wasn't a high-speed movement, that was a spatial leap. I noticed the spatial distortions during Sir Pendragon's spatial leap. What? A spatial leap? Sir Pendragon had such a spatial ability? No wait. Spatial ability? Very shortly, Barucha and the other martial warriors quickly recalled a certain prophecy from the sacred Tirtha, and their eyes instantly beamed with greater shock and excitement. The Destined Overlord. Martial brothers, the Destined Overlord has appeared. Barucha loudly announced with excitement and confidence, strongly believing in his statement. In the past, I have never thought the Destined Overlord would be someone I would strongly respect and admire from the bottom of my heart. After all, no matter who the Destined Overlord was, I believed that person wouldn't have anything to do with the martial way. I believed such a person would have been a spatial attribute transcendent witch, someone blessed with strong magical powers from birth. However, I thought wrong, and I'm glad I did. Not only is the Destined Overlord a person of the martial way, but he is even the first person in history to climb to the very top of the Black Mountain. If someone like that doesn't deserve your loyalty and worship, then I don't know who would ever will. However, I will tell you what, martial brothers, Sir Pendragon has earned by complete admiration and loyalty, and I am willing to follow him as he unites the continent. Who else wants to join me in following Sir Pendragon? Ba-dump. The blood of all martial warriors boiled as they listened to Barucha's speech. After all, they had all witnessed his glory in reaching the top of the Black Mountain. Such force of will from one who had reached the top and pursued the martial way truly deserved their utmost respect. This old man may be old, but he is not blind. I have never seen such a young man with such awe-inspiring talents and determination. An elderly transcendent rank body refiner descended the Black Mountain and sighed in admiration. Sir Pendragon is a role model for all warriors and deserves every bit of this old man's respect and loyalty. Truly worthy of the one who shoulders the great destiny of uniting Pangaea. Naturally, this old man is willing to follow Sir Pendragon on his conquest. However, who the hell are you to Sir Pendragon, young lad? Why should we follow your lead? The elderly transcendent rank body refiner asked. Who am I to Sir Pendragon? Barucha smiled and patted his chest, feeling a wave of honor and pride overwhelm him before stating, I am Sir Pendragon's first follower. I had the honor of being his guide, then follower, even before he revealed his martial talent. Following such a declaration, Barucha immediately received countless gazes of awe and envy, just as he had hoped. However, it only lasted a moment before they started cursing his dogshit luck for receiving such an opportunity despite his trash martial talents. Nevertheless, thanks to Barucha's incitement, the full force of martial warriors in the Black Mountain expressed their desire to follow Vaan and serve him. Let us move, brothers. Even if we can't help much, we must at least witness Sir Pendragon's glory. We, the proud warriors of the great Rathalos Empire, acknowledge his right to rule the continent. Barucha shouted excitement, completely absorbed in his role of convincing and leading Vaan's martial followers. Yeah, the martial warriors roared. Meanwhile, in a seemingly abandoned slum district, Vaan blinked into view with Lucian in his grasp. He hurled the royal vampire into the ground with savage force, followed by a powerful drop. Boom! Vaan descended right on Lucian with a powerful stomp, crushing the ladder beneath his feet. Lucian's head and the ground underneath him instantly gave way under the strong impact. The ground shattered into a small crater while Lucian's head splattered, scattering blood and brain matter everywhere. Any normal person should have been instantly killed under such a state. However, a peak demigod rank royal vampire like Lucian was especially tenacious, like a cockroach. Lucian's whole body melted into a pool of blood before it gathered all the scattered blood and brain matter. However, Lucian stared at Vaan from a distance with shock, disbelief, confusion, and a hint of fear. It was like he was still savoring the taste of dying and coming back to life. Lucian had seen Vaan's stomp coming. But for some reason, his body's magical defense was completely ineffective in stopping the physical stomp. There was so much mana in his blood that his vampiric body was naturally reinforced by magic. Logically, a peak demigod level magic defense shouldn't have been shattered by an early demigod level physical attack. And yet, it did so as easily as squishing tofu. This doesn't make any sense. What the hell did you use in your attack, human? I demand an answer. Lucian roared. However, Vaan couldn't be bothered providing an answer. He simply responded with further violence, blinking behind Lucian with another spatial shift before raising one of his hands. Poof! Lucian's head splattered again with a single smack. His headless body plopped to the ground lifelessly. Shortly after, Lucian's body turned into another pool of blood, then reformed itself once more. The fear in Lucian's eyes became even more evident. This time, Lucian had tried further fortification magic to his head, but it still popped like a fragile watermelon. Weren't you going to teach me a lesson? Didn't you look down on my brute strength? Well, I'm using that exact brute strength to beat you. Vaan stated. In the blink of an eye, Vaan's figure disappeared into the void again. Lucian's expression instantly changed as he moved to dodge, knowing another attack was coming. Unfortunately, no matter how Lucian evaded, he couldn't escape the fate of getting his head splattered by Vaan's seemingly almighty hand. Plopped. Lucian's headless body dropped to the ground, then reformed from a pool of blood a third time. Signs of exhaustion appeared on Lucian's face as restoring his head consumed a lot of energy. His movements also became sluggish. Poof! Lucian's head exploded again. After the fourth time came a fifth, sixth, and even seventh time. You savage simpleton. Do you not know how to use any other attack? Lucian cried with anguish and fear. If the same attack is working over and over again, why would I need to use something else? Vaan casually replied before smiling coldly, it seems you are at your limit. Lucian's expression quickly turned ghastly pale. He wasn't sure he had enough blood energy to revive an eighth time. Suddenly, he sensed Fergus and the other 64 members of the night parade flying over from a distance. Joy immediately flooded his heart. Lord Fergus, save me. Stop. Fergus was shocked to see Lucian plead with utter despair and desperation. He immediately bellowed for Vaan to stop the moment he saw his attack. Unfortunately, why should Vaan listen? Splatter. Lucian's head flew with a smack. After his headless body dropped to the ground, it did not stand up again. How dare you? Fergus roared furious. He was a divine being with unparalleled authority and power. Previous chapter. Sir Lucian died. How is that possible? 7th rank Viessa stared at Lucian's shriveled, lifeless corpse with disbelief. Lucian was a half-step divine being. Based on their information, even if his power was suppressed to peak demigod, there shouldn't be anyone in the Great Rathalos Empire capable of killing him. After all, the Great Rathalos Empire was a country full of musclehead body refiners. Even if they dual cultivated body and aura, they would only be a little more troublesome to deal with at best. Physical attacks shouldn't be able to break the magical defenses on a higher power. How in the world did Lucian die? Looking at his shriveled body, he must have consumed all his blood energy before dying. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable, 7th rank Duradel commented with a hint of fear. Unfortunately, he was not the one who challenged the human. Otherwise, the corpse on the ground would have been his instead. Attack together. Don't give this human a chance to retaliate. He must die for his sin. Fergus bellowed with venomous fury. A top-rank vampire with a royal bloodline had actually died under his watch. How could he face the blood ancestor if he did not offer him the human's head? Nevertheless, Fergus's command surprised everyone. What? You want us to gang up on a single human, Lord Fergus? Are you serious? If word of it gets out, where will our faces be? How can we hold our heads up high in the future? 13th rank Dimitri hesitated. Right? 11th rank Ulfred wholeheartedly agreed, adding, 5 dozen demigod rank vampires with superior bloodlines fighting one trifling demigod rank body refiner. I find it difficult to participate in such a shameless act. Trifling demigod rank body refiner, you say? Fergus gnashed his teeth in anger after seeing the attitude of his peers. If he was just a trifling demigod rank body refiner, how do you explain Lucian's death? Even my mind control has no effect on him. Otherwise, how could he possibly refuse me? Keep your useless pride back at home. This is war, not the duels back at home. We were proud because we could overpower our foes. If we can't overpower our foes, then what is there to be proud of? You better listen to me and do as I say if you want to live. There's something strange about this human, Fergus strictly said with caution. The high-ranking vampires all clenched their fists with anger. They did not like what they heard. Even so, they had to admit Fergus's words were correct. They were at war, and completing the Blood Ancestors mission should be their most important concern. Kill him. Fergus barked, feeling a bit of heartache. The human's blood was extremely precious. Unfortunately, he could not monopolize it. The person was too much of a threat to be left alive. During this time, Vaan had actually taken the chance to collect his spoils of war, Lucien's corpse. The corpse of a half-step divine being was practically a priceless treasure to most people. Furthermore, the royal vampire bloodline seemed to have a lot of potential. Thus, only a fool would leave it to rot. Even if Vaan couldn't use it for himself, he could still study it for others. That said, there was a good chance that it would be useful to him. After all, it was unknown how long the war against Abaddon's forces would last, and conserving his energy for Abaddon was neither ideal nor viable. He had to find another way and use all available resources if he wanted to have a chance at overcoming his tribulation. If Vaan had wanted to, he could have killed Lucien in a single blow. He only needed to obliterate Lucien's soul instead of destroying his body over and over again. However, if he had done so, he wouldn't have gotten to study Lucien's blood powers. Bang, bang, bang. Several volleys of blood spears bombarded Vaan's location relentlessly with the intent of impaling him to death. However, not a single blood spear hit its intended target. Vaan was like a slippery snake. He effortlessly weaved through the volleys of blood spears without even glancing at them. Furthermore, he evaded them with minimal movements, as if he predicted where each shot would land ahead of time, and moved his body accordingly. Although he made it look easy, it wasn't something that others could replicate. Predicting the trajectory of so many targets within such little time was something only Vaan could do. His fourth-dimensional sense was such a near-omniscient ability. Stop. Stop attacking. What the hell are you all doing? Why are you only using range attacks and so recklessly? Fergus barked at his fellow high-ranking vampires with strong criticism. There wouldn't be any blood left to savage if they skewered their target into a porcupine. Furthermore, they had fired so many blood spears that they kicked up a storm of dust and soil, obscuring their target from view. Even their blood sense failed to detect their target in the dust cloud. It was like trying to look for a moving corpse without a heartbeat. Did fear make you forget all your abilities? Fergus scolded his peers. However, the high-ranking vampires couldn't be blamed for being afraid. After all, they had all seen Lucien's helplessness and despair. If the third strongest vampire in their night parade could be reduced to such a state, who in their right mind would dare to engage in close combat with the enemy? Even if some wanted to, they couldn't, not while others were bombarding the area with their blood spears. Nevertheless, as the dust settled, Fergus and his peers stared at the beehive-like state of the ground with focus. Their minds suddenly went blank. Not only was their target missing, but even all the blood spears they had fired were also missing. There wasn't a single drop of blood within sight, and even their connection to this portion of their blood couldn't sensed. It was as if all their blood spears had disappeared from existence. Where did the blood go? Everyone had the same thought. However, they didn't have time to dwell on their missing blood as they had bigger worries. Their 66th rank member, the weakest of them all, was soon found dead in the human's grasp without any hopes of reviving. His proud immortality did not save him from the clutches of death. I'm actually trembling. Soul. Soul trait, Dragon. Soul cultivation method, not applicable. Cultivation level, peak demigod rank. Soul strength, 6400. Law. Law comprehension method, not applicable. High comprehension. Fire law, 7.5%. Space law, 12.4%. Nihility law, 5.1%. Wind law, 5.5%. Water law, 5.4%. Low comprehension. Earth law, 0.97%. Death law, 0.99%. Life law, 0.99%. Law. Authority. Fire authority, semi-divine rank. Space authority, second stage divine rank. Nihility authority, peak demigod rank. Wind authority, peak demigod rank. Water authority, peak demigod rank. Equals. Without a doubt, absorbing the second soul fragment had raised Vaan's abilities substantially. Even killing a peak demigod rank vampire was as easy as turning over his hand. All he did was introduce a wisp of nihility into the vampire's mind, and the vampire would turn into a soulless corpse, one that was perfectly preserved for later study. It would be strange if the other vampires didn't tremble in fear after seeing death claim one of their kind so easily. Anyone would fear the unknown. Nevertheless, Vaan had to admit that the nihility law was undoubtedly the most tyrannical law in the universe. At the most basic level, it could convert all matter into its most primal and purest form of energy. At higher levels, it would destroy all forms of existence. However, in the memories of Varana's life, Vaan had also learned that the nothingness outside of chaos was not truly nothingness. At the very least, it existed as something else to fourth-dimensional beings. After Fergus and the other high-ranking vampires discovered Ulfred's corpse in Vaan's grasp, they witnessed Vaan tossing the vampire corpse into his private space. In that instant, they immediately understood where all their blood spears went. They had all been pocketed by Vaan like they were some rare treasures or something. In all their years of living, they had never encountered a situation where their enemy would loot their blood in the middle of battle. It was like rich men had walked into a dirty alley to fight with poor beggars. While they were trying to beat them, the other party was only thinking about how to rob them. Fergus and several other high-ranking vampires overcame their fear as they wanted to cough up blood from anger. However, when they thought they might also lose such blood, they forcefully rein in their anger. Motherfucker has been taking our blood. Who the hell even does that? An indignant royal-class vampire cursed without any regard for his image. Well, apparently, this human does. Deidre replied with a dumb look, seemingly still unable to accept the situation. And he seems especially interested in our blood. Just a while ago, they were all harping over making the human their blood slave due to their interest in his blood. However, the humans seemed to be even more interested in their blood. Moreover, they weren't the hunters they thought they were the prey. Such a strange turn of events. Since you all know he likes to collect our blood, stop shooting them at him so recklessly like blind fools. You're just wasting your magic and blood energy, Fergus strictly scolded. Shortly after, Fergus summoned a blood sword and equipped a sturdy crimson armor made of blood, which quickly turned pitch black like it was wrapped in shadow power. At the same time, endless darkness suddenly poured out from Fergus's shadow and covered a wide region. Shadow domain, expand. Within Fergus's shadow domain, he could instantly sense the movement and location of all shadows. At the same time, he could freely summon shadow puppets and swap places with them. Fergus was prepared to fight Vaan seriously. Although he wished to use other vampires to gauge the extent of Vaan's abilities first, he couldn't afford any more losses. Every death of a member of the Night Parade reflected poorly on his ability to lead. As the strongest and leading vampire in the Night Parade, he would surely bear the full weight of the Blood Ancestor's wrath if the losses made him unhappy. Be careful, he is coming. Fergus alerted the moment Vaan used spatial shift to target another weak-looking member of the Night Parade. Swish. Just as Vaan's palm was about to reach the back of a vampire's head, Fergus traded place with an incomplete shadow puppet. However, Vaan reacted quickly and caught Fergus's sword with his bare hands. The two forces collided, and the ground rumbled. Surprise and disappointment instantly colored Fergus's eyes. He didn't expect Vaan to catch his full-powered swing at such an awkward angle and with only 3 fingers, no less. What the actual fuck? How in the world did he train his fingers to be so powerful? Nevertheless, Fergus managed to achieve his initial purpose of saving his kin's life from Vaan's deathly hands. Thank you, Lord Fergus. If you really want to thank me, then hurry up and get lost if you are not going to help me. Crack. Right after retreating to safety, Fergus immediately noticed a few finger-sized chips on his blood sword. Furthermore, the chips were spreading under some unknown corrosive power. Half a breath later, his blood sword actually snapped in half. What? Fergus was instantly shocked and fearful at the same time. He couldn't imagine what fate would have befallen him if he had lingered around Vaan for a bit longer. The unknown corrosive power was precisely Vaan's nihilistic. Be careful. This human wields a strange yet very destructive power. Even if you are immortal, you will still die if it hits you. Around this time, the large shadows of vampiric demon bats could be seen flocking over in the distance. The 7th rank Duradel immediately thought of using his bat command. Everyone, focus. I'm going to limit his movements with the bats. If you see an opening, immediately strike him down. 7th rank Duradel transmitted his will to the bats. At the same time, he waved his hand down at Vaan, but what followed was absolute silence. His face quickly flushed with confusion and shame. For some reason, the silence was especially loud. After looking back, 7th rank Duradel noticed the vampiric demon bats didn't follow his command at all. What? Why? 7th rank Duradel didn't understand why the bats weren't listening to him. In fact, they even seemed to think he was stupid. 7th rank Duradel suddenly thought he had lost his ability to command low-ranking bats. His ability would only fail if his command conflicted with the command of another person with the same ability of equal rank or higher. However, it was unlikely for a human to have the bat command ability. Thus, 7th rank Duradel was completely confused. Watch out. A sudden warning quickly snapped 7th rank Duradel back to reality. He found himself just inches away from dying to Vaan's soul-perishing hand and was horrified. Fortunately, he was saved by Lord Fergus in time. Do not get distracted over every little issue. I won't be there to save you every time. Fergus roared. 7th rank Duradel wanted to roll his eyes on the spot, wanting to scream, how is this a little issue? This is a big issue. Fergus exerted all his strength to push Vaan back with his new blood sword. However, such strenuous exertion only resulted in the hastened destruction of his new blood sword. The power of nothingness reduced all things from existence. The new blood sword was no exception, no matter how powerful it was. The blade's surface, which came in contact with the concentrated force of Vaan's nihility law, disintegrated into nothingness directly. The less exposed areas to the nihility law turned into blood crystal dust. But some pure mana and blood energy particles were also among the piles of blood crystal dust. So this is the power of nothingness, huh? Vaan mused as he noted the results of the forceful clash. The nihility law he wielded wasn't just a weapon of absolute destruction. It was also the most powerful grinding stone. With it, he would never lack energy. He just had to learn to control the right amount of nihilistic power. Originally, he was still figuring out how he could make use of the vampire blood essence he collected. However, the issue had resolved itself with that last clash. As it turned out, the answer had always been with him. Although vampire blood essence was full of blood power, which could be used to replenish blood energy, enhance healing, and reduce fatigue, it was also completely toxic. As such, Vaan couldn't simply consume vampire blood essence in its raw state to enjoy its benefits. Even if the blood toxicity couldn't threaten him due to the system, it would still conflict with his body, resulting in loss of energy and, subsequently, minimal absorption and benefits. However, the nihility law could remove the toxicity and turn the vampire blood essence into a miraculous elixir for recovery. Meanwhile, Fergus was aghast by the sight. The new blood sword was created with mana and blood magic, but the blood produced through blood magic wasn't the same as the blood of vampires or any other living beings. It only had some blood energy and not the vital power of life. However, Fergus was aware that if Vaan could decompose the blood of blood magic into raw energy, then he could also do the same for the blood essence of vampires. Vampires were immortal-like beings with tenacious life force, strength, and stamina due to their ability to replenish their energy with the blood of other living beings. They feed on the blood of other life forms to exist, but what if someone could feed on them? They would no longer be at the top of the food chain. This person must die. Fergus instinctively thought. Shortly after Fergus used shadow puppet displacement to retreat, he shouted, "Do not hold back anymore. Use all your power to destroy this human. He is too dangerous to be left alive. Even if we have to die, we have to kill him at all costs. If we let him grow, he will threaten the blood ancestor." Fergus stressed. Threaten the blood ancestor? There's no way that's possible. 8th rank Fane wanted to believe Fergus was joking with exaggeration. But when she saw his expression, she knew he was completely serious. Furthermore, Fergus followed up on his words by activating Bloodlust. The Bloodlust ability granted vampires explosive power beyond their normal limits by burning their blood essence and putting them into a bloodthirsty, berserk state. It wasn't easy to maintain their reason under such a state. Bloodlust was powerful, but its side effects were also severe. Nevertheless, since Fergus was willing to use Bloodlust, the other high-ranking vampires had no choice but to follow. TCH. 8th rank Fane clicked her tongue. Bloodlust. 8th rank Fane and 24 other members of the Night Parade activated their Bloodlust ability at once. In that instant, their crimson eyes glimmered with intensity, their veins protruded, and their flawless skin dried. Their pale bodies seemingly came to life as their blood burned scorching hot. Vaan's blood was already irresistibly temptatious to the vampires. Thus, after they lost a portion of their reasoning due to bloodlust, they failed to suppress their desire to feast. Blood. Delicious human blood. It's mine. All mine. The 61st rank vampire completely lost control and lunged at Vaan with crazed hunger, exposing his sharp fangs and outstretched nails that could easily tear into tender human flesh. Fool. Fergus cursed. He knew he couldn't stop another vampire in the Night Parade from dying. Thus, he was prepared to use the vampire's impending death to his advantage and deal Vaan a severe or killing blow. Without any surprise, Vaan split the 61st rank vampire in half with a clean downward chop after it attacked him head-on. It did not matter how sturdy the vampire's magical defense was nor how sharp his claws were, in front of Vaan's downward chop, everything had to give way. With his hand covered in nihilistic power, it became the sharpest of knives. As the 61st rank vampire split apart under Vaan's chop, several other vampires came within 2 meters of him with their attacks. Even Fergus appeared behind Vaan with a vicious glint, preparing to puncture his heart with a clean stab. Vaan only made one attack but was immediately besieged on all sides. Even he would feel something from all the bloodlust and killing intent directed at him under such a dangerous situation. However, he had no opening. Boom! The tyrannical power of the nihility law erupted from Vaan's body, surging out in all directions toward the incoming vampires, causing their expression to change instantly. Fall back! Fergus roared in horror as he overdrew his strength to cancel his attack and retreat at his quickest speed. However, the forceful change in movements was more than his body could handle. As a result, his muscles were torn and his bones creaked. Despite the self-inflicted injuries, he managed to keep his life at least. Shadow puppet displacement. Fergus traded places with one of his many shadow puppets and escaped to safety in the nick of time. Nevertheless, he had never been so close to death that his body still felt the lingering fear. Such an unpleasant feeling was no different from getting kissed by Thanatos. It was a horrifying experience no one would ever forget. Meanwhile, several frenzied vampires were not so lucky and collided with Vaan's surging power of nothingness head-on. Their bodies scattered into nothingness almost instantly, leaving nothing behind. The more fortunate ones retreated with a missing arm or leg. Undoubtedly, Vaan's nihility law was overpowered to the extreme. However, such reckless usage did not come without a price. The consumption of mental strength was not to Vaan's desired level of efficiency. After all, the nihility law destroyed space itself before erasing Vaan's enemies, and such destruction consumed his mental strength to maintain the same level of nihilistic power. Furthermore, with the complete destruction of the vampire's corpses, how could he collect any blood essence? His only compensation was the pure primal energy created from the destruction of the ground, albeit only a small portion of its potential amount. The sheer destruction from the nihilistic power outburst also caused the space to become unstable, hastening the spread of Gehenna's domain. Vaan's eyes flashed with insight as he refrained from using the nihility law. He had, more or less, finished testing the nihility law and weighed its advantages and disadvantages. It wasn't the sort of power he should abuse, at least not with the current situation. In Varana's life, I reached the peak of wind law and water law. So, there's no point in focusing on these two laws. My comprehension of them will gradually return as I recover more memories of Varana's life, Vaan mused. On the other hand, he felt the spatial law and fire law deserved his attention and focus. Although he had reached a high level of understanding of the spatial law in Vanitas's life, he fell short before reaching the peak. Thus, there was still room to grow there. Meanwhile, the fire law was the opportunity and destiny of his current life, Vaan's life. As such, he couldn't ignore it. Vaan encountered countless destinies and inherited different talents in each reincarnation and past life. But of the millions of reincarnations, only Venatus and his current life stood out, ignoring that he had only seen half of his reincarnation. Even so, the spatial law and fire law were undoubtedly intertwined with his current destiny. They could also be the answers Varuna sought to break free from his supposed limited talent. Varuna's death in the fourth-dimensional world was not a tragedy but an opportunity, Vaan strongly believed. If he could take the spatial law and fire law to the peak, he would have achieved peak comprehension of 4 laws in his cumulative lifetime. Furthermore, once he reached that step, he might have a good chance of achieving a greater height, one that Varuna pursued but failed to achieve. Of course, that was also the only clear and logical path Vaan could follow. He was not so arrogant that he believed he could surpass Varuna's accomplishments in the wind law and water law before reaching the same height of power. Even with fourth-dimensional sense, it was a foolish thought. After all, he was not even divine yet. Duradel, what's going on with you? Did fear make you forget how to use Bat Command? 17th rank Gregory chose to taunt Duradel to hide his own weakness. Nonsense. There's no problem with my control over Bat Command. If there were a problem, it would have to do with the bats or that strange human. Duradel furiously replied before urging Gregory, if you are so confident in your own Bat Command, why don't you try using it against him? Humph. Ha ha ha, just watch me, Duradel. I will make you acknowledge your ability is inferior to mine. They already knew engaging the enemy in close combat was too dangerous. Despite that, many vampires still chose to do so after using bloodlust. Now that some vampires died, how could he still have the guts to do so? Gregory would rather resolve the bat issue and then use the army of bats to exhaust the enemy. That was the safest approach. The blood ancestors' will was important but never as important as his own life. He hasn't lived long enough yet. Hear me, lesser servants of darkness, and answer my call. I, Lord Gregory, command you to attack that human. Unfortunately, the army of vampiric demon bats didn't listen to him. At most, they just spared him disdainful glances. The shame made Gregory want to dig a hole and hide himself. He finally understood how Duradel felt. Nevertheless, he had already ridden the tiger and couldn't back down. In a battle between two vampires with Bat Command, the one with the stronger will would assume command of the bats. But when he used Bat Command on the bats, he did not feel the clash of another will. Instead, it seemed to be the wills of the bats themselves who were resisting his command. How could such lesser creatures of darkness refuse and embarrass him? Were they trying to rebel? Did you not hear me? I command you to attack. In the sky, the army of bats started bleeding from their red eyes as they resisted the powerful will flooding into their minds. Insignificant as they were, they couldn't follow an impossible command despite their inability to resist the powerful will. In the end, the bats all went mad. Screech. Following the bats' frenzied screams, the army of bats descended upon the surface, attacking every vampire with the ability to lord over them. Who do you think you are attacking? Ah, these lesser creatures have gone mad. How dare you rebel against me? Go to hell. Gregory retaliated, killing the bats in his fury. Arg. Gregory, you blood fool, an enraged roar resounded as Fergus scolded furiously, not only are you not helping us, but you are also hindering us. Just what the hell did you do to the bats? Why are they attacking us? You're asking me, but who do I ask, Fergus? I would also like to know. Gregory cried, feeling wronged as the bats dived him without any regard for their lives. Arg, you pests. Piss off for me. The group of high-ranking vampires was quickly drowned in rage and frustration. Although the bats couldn't threaten them, they were certainly a nuisance with their numbers. Meanwhile, Vaan didn't miss the opportunity. Amidst the chaos plaguing the high-ranking vampires, Vaan slipped through the void, appearing behind the vampires and extinguishing their souls with his deathly grip. Black Rose Kingdom, Blackthorn City. Inside the palatial magic tower, Henrietta and Victoria silently enjoyed tea as they sat opposite each other. Victoria didn't think much of it as she believed Henrietta was such a quiet person in her spare time. After all, the life of a ruler was a lonely one. However, little did she know that Henrietta didn't want to talk because she felt uncomfortable facing Victoria, who was both her friend and her grandmother-in-law. Aren't you a little too free, Victoria? You've completely made yourself at home here. There should be other things you need to do, no? Henrietta gradually broke the silence. Hee, I do, but they are not so important that I can't postpone them to another time. Victoria smiled and said, more importantly, it's been so long since we last met. We ought to catch up, no? Furthermore, if I leave to do other things, what happens if I miss my grandson again? Or do you not welcome me anymore, Your Majesty? Victoria asked shortly after. Henrietta's expression fell for a moment before her eyes suddenly flashed with surprise as she received Keezy's report via sound transmission magic. Astonishment and shock quickly colored her face, subsequently surprising Victoria. What's the matter? Victoria inquired. Henrietta was silent for a moment as she absorbed Keezy's information. After some time, she took a deep breath and sighed. A devil's contractor sacrificed around 2 million lives to summon an enormous blood portal connecting Pangaea and Gehenna, and now the great Rathalos Empire's capital city is getting swarmed by vampires. Crack. Victoria's teacup dropped to the ground and shattered into countless fragments, but Victoria didn't seem to notice as she stared at Henrietta with disbelief and doubt. You're joking. Victoria forced a smile. I'm not kidding. Henrietta shook her head and added, a red dragon just informed on your grandson's behalf, so it must be true. Furthermore, he asked me to prepare troops for spatial deployment. I'm going. Victoria strongly asserted, jumping straight to her feet. After listening to Henrietta's news, she was so excited and concerned to meet her grandson that she did notice Henrietta's choice of words. If Victoria had noticed Henrietta used ask instead of request, then she would have suspected their relationship. Nevertheless, Henrietta was a little taken aback by Victoria's eagerness. You're going? Henrietta flashed her a side eye and said, "You're not even a part of this kingdom's military. Heck, you're not even a part of this kingdom. If you want to go, no one will stop you. But you can only go by yourself. Don't cause trouble for my military. You want me to go alone to a place experiencing a huge vampire outbreak? Are you kidding me? Are you asking me to die?" Victoria glanced back at Henrietta incredulously before mentioning weakly, "Haven't I already decided that my family will move and settle down in this kingdom? More importantly, what do you mean by making trouble for your military? If anything, they'll need my leadership and abilities." "I believe I am qualified to lead your military," Victoria confidently stated. However, Henrietta smiled slyly and said, "If you want to join my military, I can only let you start from the middle ranks at best. Even if you are my friend, I can't give you special privileges." If Victoria joined the Black Rose Kingdom's military, she would become Henrietta's subordinate. If that happened, Henrietta wouldn't feel embarrassed once her secret was exposed. After all, it was normal for rulers to marry some offspring of high-ranking officials or trusted retainers to ensure their loyalty. However, Victoria's eyes twitched when she heard Henrietta's condition. How could she accept that? "My good sister, I am a rare spatial attribute high witch with hundreds of years of leading a great family. I possess both the skills and qualities of a leader. Will you really give someone overqualified like me a middle position if I join your military?" Victoria complained. "Sister, please," Henrietta glanced at Victoria, seemingly helpless yet playfully, as she said, "a spatial attribute high witch is not that special these days. We have over 20,000 high witches in the military and dragon assistants for spatial deployment. In terms of magic, I believe the dragons are also unrivaled. So, while I have to admit that your qualities are desirable for the military, you are only an addition and not an absolute necessity. Giving you a middle position in the military is already very generous of me. That aside, you said you were overqualified. So, you shouldn't have any problem rising up the ranks quickly, right?" Henrietta grinned. Victoria pointed at Henrietta with a trembling finger but couldn't find any words to refute her. Henrietta's words were very logical from the standpoint of a ruler. "I did hear there was a big increase in high witches, but to think it was actually true. Since when were high witches so easy to become?" Victoria's lips twitched. "Why don't you ask your grandson that question when you see him?" Henrietta replied, casually mentioning, "I heard he used a very special method to raise high witches." "Special method? What kind of special method?" Victoria wondered. She suddenly thought of dual practice, and she couldn't help but feel weak and spooked with goosebumps at the same time. How much stamina did her grandson need to have to raise so many high witches through such a special method? Surely, that was not the case, right? "I don't know," Henrietta nonchalantly shrugged before giving Victoria another glance. "So? What will you do?" "Fine. I'll do it." Victoria gritted her teeth and said, "I don't care about the position anymore, so just let me join and go see my grandson. It's too dangerous for me to go by myself." "All right, it's settled then," Henrietta happily agreed as she clapped her hands together. Victoria suddenly felt like she had fallen for Henrietta's scheme as her expression soured with somberness. Unfortunately, she had already given her word, so she could only go along with it and slowly find out later. After all, where would her face be if she took back her words and changed her mind just like that?